Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Lionel, class of 2009, back with another episode of PV versus everybody. And listen, you know what we do on Sundays. It's the recap, all right? But listen, we kind of rebranding a little bit because we was able to secure one of the best minds, not just in HBCU football, right? But in all college football, right? You know what I'm saying? To get him to be a part of this show, because I know y'all be coming on like, man, what Lionel and Carrie know? Like, what they know, what they talking about. So he's like, all right, listen. All right, if we get Coach Northern on here, and if we can find a way to get him to agree with us on some stuff, because I know he's not even agree on everything, but we can get him to agree on some stuff. Listen, you gotta take that to the bank. Then you gotta take it to the bank. So, man, I can't wait for you guys to bring up my co-host and our new co-host, Coach Heish Northern. But before we get into it, man, obviously got to remind you, listen, I told y'all we doing big things here, man. Listen, follow us over on PV_ versus everybody on Instagram and on Twitter. If you haven't followed us and you've seen us drop the PV fantasy football results from this past week, shouts out to Janarius, man. It's cold, ain't it? You know what I'm saying? And he's cold with the graphics, and he's gonna be supporting PV versus everybody with his graphic skills, man. And so shouts out to him for the work that he's doing and in connection with the channel and just building up the platform, man. And listen, if you got graphic needs, man, make sure you get at him as well. And obviously, look, we go and like and subscribe to the video because we are on the way. We are on the march, right, to 600 subscribers. All right, we're making our way slowly but surely, but we almost there, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, right? If you have not already, right? And just show some love, man, because we continue trying to build and do some big things. And also, listen, we keep telling you about it. The 1876 Alliance is listen, the plans are being put in place. Everything's together. We're almost ready to really introduce it to you guys so we can really spearhead and get this NIL thing going. And so we're just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. They almost got those things together. And once they do, we're going to bring it to you on the show so you guys can be made aware about all of those different things, man. But listen, hey, you talking about being able to, get yourself together right this weekend. Listen, we had a lot of teams going out and getting that money, right? You know what I'm saying? What are we talking about? D2 schools coming to SWAC and MEAC schools? What are we talking about? The D1 schools going to get some money in that money game, right? Because listen, money is important. All right, at the end of the day, money is important, and many of us trying to go get that money because we're trying to take care of home, right? You know what I'm saying? And listen, if you trying to take care of home, you need to hit up my guy, PV alumni Jeff McKissick, man. He's a Texas licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company, and he will guide you seamlessly through the home buying process. See, many of us are unaware for our credit score or our true financial situation, but Jet will help you develop a step-by-step plan to improve your financial standing, making your dream of owning a home achievable sooner than you think, right? You ain't got to go out here and have all these money games, right? You know what I'm saying? He'll help you put together a step-by-step plan so you got to have all these money games, all right? So he understands your financial situation may not be perfect, right? Just like many of our HBCUs, but that's okay. The sooner you start the conversation with a man, the sooner you two can solve the problems like the credit issues, the student loan debt that many people have. So don't let the fear of new heights hold you back from getting the home of your dreams. Perfect for your growing family or hosting those PV watch parties, right? Get started now, taking the first steps toward your new home and taking the next big step in your life. So don't delay, man. Look, talk to Jeff today so he can help you get in your home tomorrow. All right. And Jeff looks forward to speaking with you guys very, 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 very soon, man. And I want to let you know, man, that today, hey, we got week 2 recap. All right. The recap with Coach Heish Northern. So first and foremost, Coach, man, what is going on? How are you doing, man? How have you been? Because we haven't seen your face. Many of us have been hearing your voice a lot, but we ain't seen your face, man. So how have you been doing these last few years, man, since you've been off the sideline?
Man, everything's been going pretty good. You know, I hadn't moved. I tell people this, I hadn't moved since I coached at Prairie View. I went to Texas Southern for a year with Coach Asbury. Many people know that he and I went to high school together. That didn't work out, unfortunately. I went to Brookshire Royal High School for a few years.
Okay.
And then, you know, pretty much since the pandemic, I've been taking care of my kids, because I spent a lot of time taking care of other people's kids. So my son, a lot of people may remember him running out the tunnel when I was at Prairie View. He's now a senior at Bridgeland High School, football and baseball player. I have a daughter that does competitive cheer and dance. So I spent a lot of time with them and helping people. I teach hunting and fishing, by the way, for the state of Texas. So if anybody need a hunting or a fishing license, I'll be teaching classes at the Bass Pro Shop in Katy, Texas. And other than that, man, I just follow football. I still keep in touch with the game, because I know eventually I will be on the administrative side of college athletics in the HBCU world, because I always tell people I don't feel like I need to go somewhere else for somebody to tell me I'm good at either being an administrator or a football coach. So I really want to work at an HBCU campus, which I do have a degree in sports administration. Everywhere I go, man, I do a SWOT analysis from the time I hit the door to the time I leave. So when I go on campuses, no matter where it is, I'm looking at what's the experience like. Did I have a hard time getting in? Was customer service good? Were the people nice? Were they there when they said they were going to be there? You know, that's the type of things that I'm into. But I still keep up with Prairie View football. I'm on the open mic network with Mike. And I do a few of Prairie View's games. I'll do pretty much all of the home games this year. I may do the State Fair Classic, but I pretty much honestly base everything in my life at this time on my kids' schedule. But I watch a lot of football. I watch videos on how to stop certain things, because I still look at myself as a defensive mind. And I look at some offensive stuff. But the main thing I'm looking at, how do I stop people in the age where you could throw passes with linemen downfield, you know, all that type of stuff. So I'm still involved in the game. I help coach kids. Like if I show up to a middle school and I see a kid out there kicking, I picked up 2 kids that I helped kick. One of them plays at my son and one at a middle school down the road. And those kids have been having success. So I asked dad, like, hey, man, do you have a problem with me showing your son this? And I coach middle school and high school kids like I coach college kids. I don't curse anything, but I tell them, look, this is what I tell my guys, and this is what you need to do, and just let it roll from there.
That's big, man. So listen, all that to say, he's still been active, right? Yeah. So he might be behind the scenes, right? But he's been active, man. And I really, I'm one who really enjoys you on Mike Prince's show. I know a lot of people don't really, look at like the audio as much, right? You know what I'm saying? But I'm one who always love to hear your perspective that you share, when Mike Prince has you on. And so I'm super excited to have you join the show just to give your perspective for other people may not even be aware, right? Coach Heish, you know what I'm saying? For you guys to be aware of just this knowledge that he's bringing to the game. And I think it's going to just make the show, even better, right? As we talk about, again, general HBCU football, but obviously, a big portion of that time we want to spend on, Prairie View A&M as well, man. So, Kerry, man, how you doing, guy? Man, I see you still living. After yesterday. You still alive?
I almost wasn't. That was if they could have got any more help from the ref, I thought they were going to push them. The ref himself was going to push.
Oh man, you thought the refs were going to get in the game? So like, all right, listen, we're going to try this one more time, and we're going to come help you out too this time, right?
Yeah, right. That game right there.
We gonna talk about it, man. Because listen, that is very interesting. But starting off, man, before we get into the game of the week, obviously. You know what I'm saying, with PV and Northwestern. I want to ask, man, and Coach Northern, man, I really want to get your perspective on this, because talking about this week 2, is a week where, again, we talked about it a little bit earlier when I was doing my little introduction, my little blurb. It's a money week, right? For the D2 schools. Also, for you talk about going against D1. For you as a coach, right, when you're looking at these games, how do you evaluate where you are when you have such a lopsided game like you have typically in this week 2, where you're going against Miami for example, Florida A&M, and it's 56-9, right? Or you going Grambling playing against Tuskegee. I mean, you up 37-0, and you kind of just let the dogs off, right? How do you really evaluate where you are when you have these situations in these games where it's going to be so lopsided?
Well, a lot of it goes back to the scheduling aspect, because I've been at places where the schedule will be made and the coach just finds out about it. But does the coach have a chance to sit in on the scheduling process? So just say if I was at Prairie View and I knew I had to go play Texas A&M, I may say, all right, I need this amount of money to go directly to our football program. I need this amount of money for the year before we play them to go to my summer school budget, because I need to have all my guys on campus. I need to have them in shape and lifting weights some kind of way to get prepared for that game. Now, once the game gets there, I am thinking, if I'm playing up, I'm thinking, first and foremost, I want to start the game off good. I'm playing to win. No matter who we playing against. Because like I say, if I'm playing Michael Jordan in basketball, I think I have a chance if I do what I'm supposed to do. The other thing I'm looking at, can my guys, especially my senior guys, can we put a good showing out for the NFL scouts? Because that's the first thing they're going to want to do is look and see how you played against supposed to be superior competition, especially if they're offensive or defensive lineman. So I'm going to look at that. I'm going to prepare, sometimes, and I've, been on the playing upside where we say we try to be a little bit too basic, or let's stick with what we do. But sometimes you have to throw your game plan away and say, hey, man, we're going to blitz the mess out of these people and try to play some cover zero, or we're going to play a little bit more 4-man front of 3. You're going to try to do something a little bit different that they may not have prepared for. And tell you guys, hey, man, just do your job. Don't try to do anything extra if I'm playing up. If I'm playing, just say if I'm Grambling and we play Tuskegee, I want to get off to a great start and then let my guys that say they should be playing, let my guys that say the coach is messing over them, let them get in the game and show me what you can do. Even though it's against Division II, that may give me some trust in you down the line to say, okay, we were up 35-0 at the half. Let me get these guys in. Can we add to the lead, or do we just have to play clock ball and run 3 times, punt, and still come out with the win? So it's a couple different things once you actually get to the game. But if I'm playing up, it's a think ahead process.
No, that makes sense, man. I always wonder, because when you have those games, I'm like, to me, I feel like it's an opportunity to also try some things that you might be interested in seeing if you could do, down the line in some important games. And so to me, I always feel almost like, I won't say it's a waste, but I almost feel like it's wasted when you kind of are too basic, right? It's kind of like you win it, you can tell we win this game and we just trying to get it out of it as quickly as possible. Because I'm like, man, you didn't get to see what your guys got. Or when you don't let something like that back up, play and get a couple rounds in, right? Almost like an NFL preseason game almost.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my thoughts. I don't know, Kerry, what your thoughts are on it throughout the years of seeing people go, up and down the road, for these games, man.
Well, I think with those games, you do have some players that either transfer down from FBS or feel they should be playing FBS. To be honest, some of those so-called playing up opponents, I think that's what helped put Kadero Hodge and Quentin Bell on the map. They played really good against competition like that. And even Jalen Morton, remember the game he had against Rice. Those games are not anything that you even see it at the high school level, because you'll see some teams that my son went to a charter school, but if he played basketball against Carter, he didn't back down. He got out there and played hard as he could. And that's when you go out there and prove that, put your pants on one leg at a time like I do. So feel like I always, have a shot. if you find yourself where they might be getting past your line pretty easy, then you could run some screen passes on them and some misdirection and kind of catch them off guard, because, your guys are athletes too. So they shouldn't be wanting to back away from anyone.
No, that's good, man. Yeah, so let's get into it. We had a slew of games from this past week. I actually want to start off with some of the MEAC contests. I'm gonna pull this up on the screen just so we can run through real quick. Well, and while I'm pulling this up, man, outside of the PV game, right? Because we're going to get to the PV game. Was there any specific game, across the HBCU landscape that you were really interested in once either you watched it right in person or you saw the score and you said, man, I got to go back and watch that game? Was there any game that kind of stood out to you or popped up in your mind and your eyes, like that from this past weekend, week 2?
Well, I watched the Norfolk Virginia State game. I watched the Norfolk game. Coach Odoms and I consider, I think we're pretty good friends. Coach Frazier is the head coach at Virginia State, former head coach at Prairie View, and he has Manigo as his offense coordinator. He was a GA, and I want to say the wide receivers coach at Prairie View when I was there, and Coach John Pierce, who was our special teams coordinator and defensive coordinator for a couple of years. They're all on the Virginia State staff. So I had a chance to watch a good bit of that game. And I had a chance, I was home for a class reunion, so I didn't go on campus to Southern's game. So I watched a good, probably almost about the first half and a little bit of the third quarter of Southern's game. I went to school there, and Coach Graves was he was a grad assistant when I was playing at Southern. So I watched a good bit of that game. So I like to say I always keep up with guys that I know, places that I worked at, and different things like that. So those are the games that I watched while I had a chance.
No, that's good. Kerry, anyone stand out to you? Any game stand out to you for you?
Well, actually, the top 2 games you put up there, I was curious because being familiar with both the coaches, I just remember, what Coach Odoms did to us when his back was against the wall, because a lot of people saying hot seat and all that. And I knew how good Virginia State was. Yeah, so I'm like, man, something got to give. And I was just amazed that he turned into the old Coach Odoms and pulled it out, because I was really thinking Virginia State would get that one. And I was fascinated also with the South Carolina State game, because they beat the Citadel at the Citadel. So I know that sometimes the HBCU games can, be a little challenging when they play out of conference. And I thought that was a really good win for them. So those 2 games are the games that got me that was outside of the SWAC.
Yeah, the first thing to me when I looked at this Norfolk State game that we're pulling up right here, right? One, obviously, Kevin King is really that guy. I mean, I think 3 games in, we can see that he's really going to be a problem, throughout the rest of the season. And so I'm really interested for Norfolk, because, the thing I like about the MEAC is I love kind of how it sets up, because by the time you get to the last 6, you know who you are, right? You get the determination to know who you are. You got some early ones, right? You get the bump and bruise with some FCS opponents, low level FBS opponents. You get to know who you are by the time the real season comes around. And Norfolk is a team that this year is going to know who they are by the time it comes around. Now, what I immediately saw in this game that I was like, man, I feel like you let this FAMU game slip through your hands, right? Yeah. Was looking at the stat line of Jalen Daniels this game, right? He was 14 of 21 for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Whereas in that first game with FAMU, it felt like Coach Odoms and the OC were a lot more reserved, right? On letting him throw that ball, right? And they continue to the run game obviously got them to where they were, you know what I'm saying? But in the third quarter, fourth, when it got tight and FAMU started to make their run and lock down on defense, it's like they really didn't let him. It's like they didn't trust him yet. You know what I'm saying?
Like they didn't trust him. That's how it looked
it's
to
like
me.
They didn't trust him yet, man. And so this one, I feel like for those, for those green and gold fans, I know they're looking at this saying, man, we should be 2-1 right now. You know what I'm saying? Any specific thoughts when you look at this game and kind of look at the outline? I mean, Romello Williams, 14 for 20 for 121, a touchdown, interception. Their leading rusher was Jamil Williams, 21 carries, 60 yards. We talked about Kevin King. He led Norfolk with 20 carries, 137 yards, and a touchdown. Xavier Evans also had 9 carries for 74 yards. They rushed for 261 yards total, a total of 461 total yards altogether. And obviously, Jaquez Jones again was showing that he's the top receiver coming out of Norfolk with 4 catches, 109 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, anything stands out when you kind of just look at this game for you?
I think the thing with when you have a quote-unquote defensive-minded head coach, which Coach Odoms is, a lot of times you'll rather say, I'll run the ball and punt it rather than turn it over. And I think just looking at that kid's athleticism, they probably going to end up adding a few more either rollout or bootleg passes to their arsenal to get him to the edge for some, do I throw it to the guy in the flats? Do I take a deep shot? Or do I simply run the football and get 5 to 7 yards? So, that's sort of the live and die with Coach Odoms. And a lot of people at Southern didn't sort of like that, the fact that he had no problem punting the football and leaning on his defense.
Right.
Sure did.
Yeah,
he had some good defenses too. But look like with those averages, you could really open it up with Jones because he has a pretty. I didn't get to see the game, so I don't know if that's yak yards or if he was really stretching the field like that because I didn't get to see that game. But I was just looking at
they did hit him with a couple deep passes with some great plays. For I want to say 2 of their touchdowns were not short passes. It was, guys made a great catch on one. One of them, a guy had to come back and go over a guy to catch the ball. So, they were pushing the ball down the field.
Yeah, it looks like this long was 60 yards. It's long. I don't know if that was a touchdown or not. And then also for Cameron Thomas, he had a long of 22 yards. So, I mean, that's over half of his total 109, right? So it definitely at least hit him with one big play out of those 4 catches. And obviously averaged 27 on there. So let's move over to the South Carolina State Citadel. That was another game that you guys mentioned. 23-20 victory for South Carolina State there. Obviously, Eric Phoenix, who, Chinnisberry knew well, right, from his Benedict days. I'm sure he's happy, to have a quarterback that's with him that he actually has, like, knowledge of, like, okay, you know how I work, I know how you work, right? But what did you think about the Citadel? And we just run down real quick the scoring drives, right? It's 3-0 South Carolina, 3-3 South Carolina State in the first quarter. South Carolina State scored a touchdown in the second to go up 9-3 at halftime. The Citadel came out with a field goal. South Carolina State then scored 16-6. Citadel came back 16-13 after that touchdown, and then it was 23-13 South Carolina State, and then 23-20 Citadel, and they hanged on for the victory. So anything stand out in this game? I don't know. I didn't get a chance to actually watch this game. So I'm just looking purely off the stats and how I work. But South Carolina State has always been a very interesting team to me. Once Chinnisberry got there, and I always South Carolina State always just has one of those teams, right? You know what I'm saying? That to me, you feel like always can jump up and bite you. And Eric Phoenix was 18-23. I mean, that percentage alone is crazy, right? 5 misses the whole game for 194 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions, right? So didn't turn the ball over, right? And then you look here, 217 yards on the ground, so 414 yards total. And they only gave up, 275 yards on defense to the Citadel, right? So, any thoughts from this game, this weekend as well?
Coach Berry is an offensive line guy by trade. So, like I say, he gonna want to run the ball, play action pass, rollouts, a lot of throws outside the hashes. You're not going to see him throw the ball over the middle a lot. It's going to be we call it high-low outside of flood route concepts to the wide side of the field, or get his quarterback moving for some easy slant flat combinations, a vertical and a flat. So he's going to make some easy throws. Like I say, that's how you end up 18 or 23, because you're not really pushing the ball down the field. All you're running a whole lot of play action. And when you do have a deep shot, it's gonna be pretty much wide open. All you got to do is put it in the guy's hands. So, but they gonna lean on that run game. And the thing about South Carolina State has been pretty good since the days of the old guy, Coach Jeffries, and with Coach Pugh. Those guys stayed there a long time. And football, even when they were going through all the financial struggles, South Carolina State was putting a pretty good product on the field when they were in the throughout the MEAC days.
No, that makes that. I mean, always right. They've just been consistent.
Yes.
My uncle is a South Carolina State grad, right? We got HBCU grads all throughout our family, right? I got an A&T. His son went to North Carolina A&T, which was interesting because he went to A&T and his dad went to South Carolina State. So you already know how that was after he started going to college, right? But especially back in that time when North Carolina T was still in MEAC, obviously during that time. So, that State has always just been there, right? You know what I'm saying? They always been consistent. State is like the Steelers of HBCU football to me almost, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like that squad that, listen, we're going to have 4 coaches throughout our history. You know what I'm saying? Right. We're going to be consistent, right? This is not a fan base to where we're going to put you in, you're going to get up out of here in the next. No. We're going to give you time, right? We're going to let you build your product, right? And so I feel like that was something that Coach Berry obviously had in his mind when he say, what do I want? Because he had a lot of opportunities, right? To choose to where he wanted to go. And I feel like the history of this program, had to weigh heavy into saying, man, if I go here, it's the same footprint I'm in, and it's a fan base that's going to let me cook, right? They're going to give me time to cook, right, and build. And you know what I mean? So I'm always interested in State, man, because they're always that team in the MEAC that I feel like even other MEAC schools know we always got to keep our eye on them, even though they're not a favorite, right? Even though they're not a team this year that we say that looks like, hey, this is one that many people picking. We all got to keep our eye on them, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, Kerry, man, any thoughts on this game before we move forward?
The only thoughts, I didn't see the time of possession, but I did see that when I watched a little bit of it, they really kept the ball away from the Citadel, because if you look, you'll see that they doubled their rushing yards, and that's always bad news for your opponent when you can just keep the ball like that. And
36 minutes to 23 minutes time of possession,
and
26 first downs to only 10 first down for the Citadel.
Right, and so that was really dominant. From the time that I saw it, they did have difficulties stopping them on third down. So I was surprised because I thought being at home it would get more hostile and be difficult, but they got away from them, and keeping the ball is what really helped them a lot, because Citadel started throwing the ball around, and that's those quick turns, and you put your defense back on the field. And when that team is running on you, those linemen get worn down, because that's when it seemed like the game that's the only thing. It's like if you get out there with South Carolina State, you're gonna get some bruises, because they love to beat you down. Even if they don't win, they were there.
Yeah, for sure. They're gonna make you feel it in the morning, man. And I think one that probably stands out because of last year, obviously North Carolina Central was able to get this win in this game. And listen, at the end of the day, it's listen, you got a guy, right, in Davius Richards. And no matter, even though you have a guy that's in the program for long, he's played, but he hasn't been in a position where, okay, everything is on him yet, right? And so, again, but to me, this is why I love the MEAC, right, and how the schedule works, because, hey, he got 3-4 more games to get himself settled in. But this game, obviously, I believe he threw 3 picks in this game. I can pull up the stats real quick, for Walker Harris. 16 for 24, 181 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 interceptions on the day, right? And no fumbles, though, but only 3 interceptions, right? And so, I mean, when you give the ball away that many times, man, it'll hurt you a lot. For you, Coach Northern, man, when you have a situation like this, you got a new guy that's been in the program who really everybody looking at as this is the next coming almost, right? What do you say to him after a game like this, especially after being able to coming out against Alabama State and just playing okay, right? You didn't have a great game against Alabama State, and now you followed it up with a game that you say, man, I really wish I could have this game back and these throws back? How do you settle this guy down and let him know, hey, we still got time, we still believe in you, man, and we believe you can get the job done?
One of the things that I look at is the kid making the right reads. So if he's making the right reads, I'm probably not going to fuss at him too much. If he's making the wrong read or doing something that he hadn't been taught to do, just say if he have a high-low read and he's reading the safety or the cornerback and he got his eyes in the bad place, then I may fuss at him about that. But if he's got a clean pocket, he read it right, just maybe overshot the throw or underthrew it, then I'm sort of fine with that. But if he's out of character, I'll say out of character, taking chances, sort of doing his own thing, that's where I'm going to have an issue as a head coach. But a guy that's making the right read, I'm not going to fuss at all. If he's making the right read, people around his legs, a ball gets hit or tipped, you really can't fuss at a quarterback for that. So I would have to go back and look at the film and see what is his, why we not completing some of those passes that may be wide open. Everybody in the stadium could see a kid wide open. And then you can look at it from a technique standpoint. Do he need to put in some more work with the guys that's on the field? Guy may be a little bit deeper than he thought. One guy runs his corner route one way, another guy runs it, even though they getting taught the same way, but you have to know your personnel.
Right.
That's the thing that I'm gonna look at. Is he making the right reads first and foremost?
That's a good point, right? Because then, I mean, you kind of now that's less you gotta fix, right? If at least your eyes in the right place. Because I feel like a lot of times, you know, even that first game we talked about the PV game was like the plays were there, their eyes are just in the wrong place, right? You know what I'm saying? And so now it's like you got to go back to say, what did you see? What were you looking at? And I know now they got the GoPro right where they'll put it on your helmet, you know what I'm saying? So they can see in practice, like where your eye, you can't even tell us where your eyes was. We're going to see where your eyes was, right? Kerry, how do you feel about Central so far? Coming off the Alabama State win, which I don't know how impressive after now people seeing Alabama State, that win is for many people, right? And now, obviously, Elon, Peasy is saying it, right? I mean, Elon is definitely a playoff team, right? So, how do you feel about North Carolina Central as a whole right now? Again, super early on, right? You know what I'm saying? But how do you feel about them as a whole?
I still feel like they're somebody you need to look out for because they're similar to South Carolina State, except they have, you know, a quarterback that they're getting used to. Because remember, we talked about it, the quarterback can be tough until the bullets start flying. And since Davis Richards was there, he didn't get much chance to do that. So, and I think, you know, going forward, maybe in some of these other, because they get more I guess I call it preseason games before we do, because their conference play is down the road. But you might want to reel it in a little bit, go back, look at the film. If you're making him hold it too long, or you know, he's trying to make 3 or 4 reads instead of, you know, trying to get 2 reads and getting it out of there. Maybe shorten the field with some screen passes, something to the flat, couple passes to his tight end, you know, just some things to settle him down. You know, belly route to the running back, something that he don't have to really, you know, and then when he starts doing those, the defense can't key off on him. Because if he's just going straight back and, you know, he's trying to get used to his offensive line, maybe, you know, if he hadn't been in there before, he might think the pocket is breaking down when really it's not. He just had to hold it one more second and let it go.
Yeah.
You know, so those are the kind of things you want to go back and review and make sure you're putting them in good position for, you know, what he knows how to do. So I think they'll be all right, though, because like Peasy said, that is a playoff team. And he's not brand new, but he's kind of newer to being in the line of fire. So I think they'll.
Not.
Okay,
that's true.
I was gonna say, can I add something about sometimes how maybe we as coaches can get quarterback play wrong? So just say if I bring 2 kids in that are pretty similar, one kid may be more of a pocket passer. He is gonna look great in 7-on-7 and team when you practicing against yourself, because 9 times out of 10, he not getting hit. But you can take another kid that may be a little bit more athletic. You don't really get to see the athleticism in practice because you may blow the whistle before he scrambles, or, you know, people are chasing after him, but he's not getting hit. And I remember a few years back when Grambling, I think, went from DJ Williams to, I want to say the other kid's name, maybe Williams, that coached at Prairie View for a minute. But he led a little bit more of, could scramble a little bit. Where DJ was a true pocket pass. So 7-on-7, he's gonna look great. But like I say, when those bullets get to flying, he doesn't add anything to the play. So a lot of times as coaches, when you see 7-on-7 in team, you get that part of the game, quote unquote, wrong. And then the first game, the kid, you want to like, what did they see in this kid? But they didn't see the practice film where he looks the part. Right. But like it's a little bit different when you have what we call a gamer, a guy that's going to show up on film when the bullets are flying. So we can get it wrong as coach, and I'll admit that, and I've seen it happen to people before. You're like, how that kid even starting over such and such?
Yes, they definitely said that about DJ. Yeah. That turned the whole game when he twisted his ankle.
I remember like it was yesterday. Like I said, I've been knowing DJ since he was 3 or 4 years old, and it hurt me to see that happen to him. And then Jonathan Williams, I want to say, was the other kid name, and he came in and just led him to a championship after that. Wow! So, you know, it's one of those things that kid and the coaches will tell you, like, we didn't see that on film. We didn't see that. I'm sorry, in practice. Because he didn't get a chance to extend plays like he did in the game.
And that's almost like Alcorn with Aaron Allen last year, right? You know what I mean? Because Mako actually won the actual, you know, job, but he got injured. Allen came in and he just was blistering, right? It almost took him to a SWAC championship, you know, last year as well. So it's kind of, you know, those are those almost situations where you kind of walk into a situation like, okay, I think we good here. We'll settle down here with this one, right? You know what I mean? But super interesting, man, of how and we, when I was playing basketball back in the day, right? You know, they you know, you have guys, man, who just in practice they would give you the business, man. But we're not putting them in the game because we know what it is, right? They're not gonna nothing they do in practice, they're gonna do in the game. Okay, all right, you know? So I think it's kind of, you know, a little bit of that situation too going on sometimes, man. But yeah, man. I know one that I was actually really excited / disappointed about. Obviously, Howard with the 32-31 win over Mercyhurst, right? That's a great win for Howard out of conference. But that Towson Morgan State game, man, especially after Morgan was able to put up 30 points against Hampton, to come back with the excitement and thinking like, okay, man, they got it rolling. You know what I mean? They know who they are, and only be able to put 86 rushing yards, man, and only be able to score 9 points. That was really, really a little bit deflating, right, in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I think the offense may have figured something out here. Any thoughts on this one before we move to the SWAC?
Yeah. So Coach Sewell, the defense coordinator at Morgan State, was my office mate for a lot of time when I was at Prairie View. So, you know, and he and I still talk, and sometimes I tell him, you have to tell those guys, if your offense is struggling, defensive touchdowns count the last time I checked. Yeah, so for sure. We're not going to complain about what our offense does at all, because we have a chance to score the football as well. And, you know, I talked to him about, you know, he and I talked about those years, I want to say like the 2006-7 years, where we may have struggled on the offensive side of the ball, but you're going to have to win some 15, 17 games. Like this 9-14 game, it's probably 1 or 2 plays that if he could have back, and a kid may have made one mistake that he would like to have back as a defensive coordinator. So I tell my guy, hey, man, we can score the football. Let's try to outscore our offense this game, which a couple of times we actually did. So Coach Sewell, he going to have them guys ready. And, you know, some of those schools are going to turn more into, we going to run the ball, punt, run the ball, get a first down, play action, and score a touchdown. And I think this is the way that Alabama State is going to go well. Yes. They're going to have to turn into 2007 Prairie View, running the football, punting the football, scoring on defense, field position, time of possession game.
No, that I think that's factual, right? And that again, right, what goes to being able to learn yourself, right, and know kind of who you are. And so Morgan last year obviously lost. I want to say, I think they had 4 or 5 losses where it was like less than a 1 score
Yes.
game, right? You know what I'm
They
saying?
were just like Norfolk last year.
Yeah, so it's gonna be. I really think the MEAC is so interesting this year because I really think it's a lot tighter, than a lot of people probably thought about. Especially now when the games start going and you look at kind of Central, you seeing kind of like, okay, is Walker Harris really? That generational guy like Davis Richard? Because you got to remember, man, Davis Richard was a generational type of talent, right? And I always say, man, listen, NFL, you don't just replace NFL level talent like that. You don't replace XFL or UFL, whatever you want to call it, right? You don't replace guys who can play on the next level just like that. Like you just sneeze and pick them up in the HBCU world, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's the meaningful guys you lose. And so for Walker Harris, man, they got to figure out, what he's gonna be. And also for Morgan, but I think, man, it's gonna be so interesting. Literally, it's gonna be a dogfight the last 6 weeks of the season, and so it's gonna be interesting to see, how the MEAC ends up turning up, man, and going. So now I want to go over and just jump over real quick to the SWAC. Now I know the SWAC had a lot more money games this week, both from the D2 side and also from the FCS side. Miami 56-9 against Florida A&M. Florida A&M had a chance early in that game to score a touchdown, right? And should have really scored a touchdown, right? But wasn't able to do that, but did put up 3 field goals the first 3 quarters. And then you had, of course, Mercer with a 31-2 victory over Bethune-Cookman. For me, I think that was the most disappointing out of all of these games, right? Because, even though Mercer is a team that has, recent years been a really good team in FCS football, you wanted to see Bethune put up more of a fight there. Alabama State with the 24-3 victory over Miles. Got Alabama A&M 49-7 over Kentucky State. Grambling 37-20 over Tuskegee, but it was 37-0 at one point in the third. 58-7 Jackson over Lane, and then Rice 29-7 over Texas Southern. You also had Southern 42-10 over Savannah State. At halftime, it was only 16-7, and I believe the freshman quarterback came in and really lit it up for 316 yards. In the second to the rest of the game. Vanderbilt beat Alcorn 55-0, and then Pine Bluff, of course, paid back Arkansas Baptist for what Arkansas did to them the week before, 73-0. The two games that for me was interesting was the Lamar 28-14 over Valley, right? And then also like I said, the 31-7 Mercer Bethune-Cookman score. Any thoughts about just these slew of games from any of you guys? Anything stand out? Any game that really piqued your interest?
Man, I tell you what, I was disappointed in the Texas Southern game, to be honest with you, because like I thought that they would, after seeing a little bit of Sam Houston versus Rice, I thought Texas Southern would be able to go in and put up a better fight, I should say, than what they did. A 69-7. They could. I never saw that coming in a million days. I was thinking that Texas Southern might be able to lean on them and make that a close game. So that was disappointing to me, to be honest with you.
Yes, in that game, I don't know if he was injured, but I don't know what happened to KJ Cooper. He seemed real composed in the pocket and made good reads, but I'm not sure why he didn't play quarterback in that game. So that I think
he got tweaked in the Prairie View game. So it could have possibly been that they made a decision just to keep him out, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because from what I heard from Coach Dishman throughout the week was that he was in practice, right? He was moving well, so he expected him to play. So I don't know if it just came down to it and they just said, man, we just gonna sit him out this game. I don't know for a fact, right? But obviously it probably will be a question on the coach's call on tomorrow, to find out. Yeah, but you see, man, a total of 89 yards on offense is crazy, right? You know what I'm saying? Even against an FBS school, right? Like, that's not something you want to see. You know what I mean? at the end of the day, right? 2 turnovers, only 9 first downs, the whole game. Time of possession, they actually possessed the ball for 33 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Rice only 26, but that just lets you know that Rice really was scoring quick and easy, right? And they put up, I think, 38 points. Yeah, 38 points in 2 quarters. I mean, for Rice, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm with you, Coach. Rice is not a school that I think even us as HBCUs, Texas Southern, Prairie View, we should love having those games because, like, man, this is a game we can be competitive in, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so to not be competitive in those games, to me it hurts. I feel like, especially when we talk about recruiting, I always think about that too when we play in like HCU or Sam Houston or Stephen F. Austin, right? I'm also thinking about it from that perspective of like, man, these are the same kids that we gonna be looking to grab for, right? Who's seeing these scores, who's seeing these games, and if you're not able to even put up a fight, man, it just hurts. But the good thing is, like, coming out of this 1-1, pushing a way better position than coming out of this game being 0-2. This loss would hurt obviously a lot worse, right? And so TSU was still in a prime position in the SWAC though. After this, what do you guys think about this Valley game, man? Because Lamar's a team that has played well so far this season. It is a team that is looking to have a chance to really make some noise in the Southland Conference this year. And so for Valley to come in here and keep this game, close, obviously not really able to get over the hump, right? But obviously it's being 21-14 in the fourth quarter. What's your thoughts about, this game? And obviously, they switched from the freshman to Sisk. He went 18-31 for 171 yards, a touchdown, interception. Any thoughts on this game?
If you look at it, you'll see it's a 14-point difference in the game, and both of Valley's quarterbacks had a turnover, so that could have been a big turning point in the football game. Otherwise, 200 yards passing, you'll take that. They probably would have liked to get a little bit more productivity than that, and then the running stats. That's one that they gonna probably say, hey man, we got to find some productivity from one of those running backs. But a lot of times your running back productivity goes back to your offensive line. Or do you have receivers outside that can make people play cover 2 or cover 4 on first down? If other teams look at Valley and see they don't have a guy that makes me think I have to double him or have help, then they gonna see 8-man boxes, cover 1, and make the quarterback have to make accurate throws, which, both of them are young guys. That's not going to happen on a consistent basis.
Yeah, the first thing that pops out on the rushing stats is the leading rusher here is the freshman quarterback who had 45 yards, right? Mm-hmm. So you're really talking about from your running backs only having 32 yards on 26 carries. You know what I'm saying? Not taking his 10 carries and 44 yards to account. And so that already lets you know how bad it was on the ground for them this game. Mr. Carey, any thoughts about, Valley and kind of the way they played this game? And obviously, a big step up from the last game they played against, the first game they played against Tennessee State.
Yeah. I think it was an improvement, not the outcome they wanted. But they got to figure out how to run the ball. I think that would have helped them. I think this game, it might be attributed to, even though Lamar had 222 yards rushing, I think that the defense probably, made some key stops. They was only 4 out of 12 on third down. So that let me know they moved the ball. They did the bend, don't break thing, but they still scored those 28, but I think it could have been worse if the defense didn't have the stops they had. And it looked like Lamar kind of stopped themselves a little bit with that 157 yards of penalties, almost as many as PV. So that made it a lot tougher than it should have been. It's going to be interesting to see going forward if they're are going to still stay with the other quarterback or not. But it looks like they didn't give up, but they got to run the ball.
But I see this one stat here that popped off. I'm like, okay, maybe this was this got to be one of the tails, right? 18 penalties for 157 yards for Lamar. Yeah. I mean, that's a field and a half.
And that's how you keep Valley in the game.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, now it's making a lot more sense, right? You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to figure out what happened, right? And again, I didn't watch the game. I want to go back and watch it. But now I'm like, okay, now it's making a lot of sense of what happened here. So, all right, man. Now, hey, listen, it's time to get to the main event, you know what I'm saying, as I would call it, right? You know what I'm saying? And that is, hey, listen, the Prairie View A&M Northwestern State game. Obviously, going into the game, you really had a lot of people who really believed that Prairie View was going to not just lose the game, right, but really lose the game by a pretty wide margin. You know what I'm saying? I've heard, multiple people say 2 scores, especially since Northwestern was able to put up 28 points, in that game against Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched the game against Tulsa that they had, right? One of those was a block punt return, right? And I think another one was the other 2 they had was basically in the fourth quarter, right? When Tulsa had pulled the guys out. So I didn't see anything to me that made me say that this wasn't a winnable game, and I thought it was going to be a close game. And obviously it turned out to be a close game, but the game should not have been close. Listen, and so I always listen. You don't apologize for a win. That's what I say, right? You never apologize for a win.
Mm-mm.
But listen, man, this is the most disappointing win I feel like I've felt in a long time, because you talk about Lamar keeping Mississippi Valley in the game. Oh my goodness! I mean, how many times? It is not the referees; it's us doing really stupid stuff. Right, you know what I'm saying? To keep the other team in the game, right? You know what I'm saying? And so, just give me your general thoughts just from this game. Obviously, we're gonna get into a little bit more detail. But what was your general thoughts, just as you kind of watched this game, saw the stats? What kind of stood out to you?
Oh, the turnovers, the penalties. I guarantee it. Like, I went back and watched the game. It took me an hour to watch the last 3 drives of the game. Like I say, I was at my high school class reunion, so I'm sitting at the table, not listening to anything that they talking about, and I'm looking at the scores of the game, like, what's taking so long? Not realizing what was happening. But hey, that's like, imagine your mom or somebody cooking your favorite meal, and then you get down to the last couple scoops, and man, it's a roach or a piece of hair in it. Like, say, it was like, man, come on, guys. Like, we finding a way to, like, say, here, we don't want this. You
we
take
don't want
it. Hey, man, that was crazy, because, like I say, I still look at it from a coach's standpoint, and I'm looking like all the DB had to do was, on one play, funnel the guy inside. And let me tell you this, I know that's what they getting taught, because I've been to practice and seen them teach it. A DB don't attack the ball. Twice in the last series, and I don't want to talk about a kid, but twice in the last series, if the safety attacks the football, they probably get an interception and the game is over. So it's things like that I know they work on. You see it not happen. And it people always talking about coaching, but when me as a coach, when I see guys not, like, say, I know they worked on it, and for it not to happen, I'm disappointed for the coaches and the players themselves, because when they look at that film, they're gonna be saying, man, if I would have just listened to coach. And man, it's amazing what happened when you listen to what your coaches tell you. But I was the penalties still hurt Prairie View. You give up 30 yards in penalties on the last drive, and probably should have been more than that.
More actually. I think they gave it 45 or 60 yards.
It was two defensive holding, pass interference, and then on the long pass, right? They gave him the extra time. That was another penalty, but
you're right.
Technically, they declined it. But I mean, I'm saying to myself, come on, guys. And that's the thing that hurt, in my opinion, that hurt us as Black college coaches, because people are saying things about us, but I know it's being taught. So I wonder sometimes, like, how do we as coaches get over the hump of, hey man, we worked on this, but you're not bringing a drill to the field. That's the thing that gets me sometimes.
Yeah, because that got me too. I was surprised that, they started at the 1 with no timeouts. What was a minute 24 or something like that? And there's no way in the world they should have been at the half-yard line when the quarterback didn't complete 3 passes. So
yes.
We just was determined. I mean, the guy called it at the 1. We still get a penalty so they could be on the half-yard line. Yes. And I was just like, screaming. I couldn't believe it. And it was the whole game went like that. You make a 3rd down stop, but then you decide to stand over the guy and taunt him or do something or push him down or, or follow the guy or, stuff like that, where you had to stop. Now there's no stop because now they get a 1st down. We doubled them in offensive production, but we doubled them in penalties, and some of those penalties were at key times.
And then you think about it too, you had 3 turnovers. You held them to 2 of 13 on 3rd down, which is a outstanding stat from the defense. But like I say, at the same time, I know Coach gonna go back. Like, look at the plays that we left on the field, guys. But the turnovers and the penalties, and I know Coach ran the guys. He had the same. I ain't gonna say the same problem last year, but I know he's run the guys. But it's like sometimes the young men get caught up in the talking, the things that it's not gonna hurt anybody. You standing up over somebody is not gonna hurt that kid. It's a difference between you get a targeting call and giving up 15 yards, or you getting a target because you standing up over somebody flexing. Those are things that drive me crazy.
Yeah, so, me too.
Yeah.
How do you get? Because this is one question I really want to ask Coach. On Monday is like, because to me this game was the HCU game. It's just a win, right? You know what I'm saying? Same issues we saw the HCU game. We just got to win this game, right? Which again, you never apologize for the win. But these are things that if you playing against a Southern or a Grambling or an Alcorn and you lose that game, you say, man, listen, we had 100 we gave up a football field of penalty yards, right? You know what I'm saying? So how do you get the guys to still be as aggressive, right? To still be as on edge, right? Especially from you coming from the defensive side of things, right? Because the listen, the defense saved the game, right? Now in the last 2 drives, right? They also caused some of the issues, right? You know what I'm saying? Because of the penalties. But they also played extremely, extremely well, which is why I said from the first game with TSU, I wasn't mad. Matter of fact, I texted one of the players and said, listen, because he was like, how do you think it was? Right? I told him, listen, anytime we only give up 20 points, because I said that last touchdown, I'm not, we went for a 4-14 from a 10-yard line, right? That's not normal football, right? You normally punt that ball. If we only allow teams to score 20 points, our offense is supposed to win that game. That's how I feel, right? You know what I'm saying? So to me, I'm basically saying defense played well enough to win the game. Same thing in this game, right? The defense played extremely well, right? But the penalties, man, how do we get guys to stay as aggressive as they stand, but also not get the stupid? Because some of the stuff is just stupid. Some of the stuff is like, bro, you already tackled him. He already on the ground. Why you even? The game about to be over. Stephen Thomas, he over the guy and he hit. Why you, bro? Don't you understand? We need 2 yards and the game's over. You can listen, bro. If you just run another play and we get the 2 yards, you literally could slap him in, get the penalty, and it don't matter. It's like do y'all not understand? It's like the kids don't got football IQ or something. Like, bro, just wait one more play and you can get the penalty you want. We still kneeling on the ball, right?
Yeah. So let me tell you one of the things that I would do. I would say more as a defensive coach. So if I had a guy that I knew was always pushing and shoving after the play, maybe had gotten a personal foul a week or 2 before, one of the things, and we would practice this, I might tell my scout team running back, like, hey man, when they tackle you, I want you to push such and such. or mush him in the face mask and see what he do. And if that guy did something back, I was gonna run him. The second time he did it, I probably was gonna run. If he played linebacker, all the linebackers had to run.
Wow.
If he did it again, the whole defense had. So that's how you sort of break that. Another thing that you can do is you practice your celebrations. So just say if we got a defensive, if we got an interception, we would come to the sideline and celebrate together. But we're not going to run all the way down. They used to let the kids, especially during the COVID year, everybody could run to the end zone and not get a penalty. Well, that's over with now. So, and I know Coach McDowell told them that. The other thing is practice your celebrations, and then we would practice if we scored a defensive touchdown, this is what we're going to do on special teams and defense. Like we're going to put, if we scored a defensive touchdown, if you're on kickoff team, you're going to go run down on kickoff. You take a break on defense. And our second defense already knew that you're going to go out there and play until the starter came back and got you. But some of the celebration stuff, it irks me to no end to see guys getting celebration penalties. I say with 5,000 people at the game. Come on, man. Now it's on TV. I might look a little different, but stuff like that just drives me crazy, man.
Man, Kerry, what's your thoughts, man?
Well, my thing is, I know you're excited, but I don't see the deal in celebrating tackling a running back that you just let get a 6-yard gain and you celebrate because you tackled. He can celebrate over you. My thing is, I would really try to tell the guys, a real championship player acts like they've been there before. And so, I'm going to tell them it's okay to celebrate, but let's celebrate when the clock hits 0 because winning is a bigger celebration than the celebration you got that got us the penalty, because sometimes I've seen celebrations turn a game. And then the other team, what's that? He who last the best, and so you don't want to be that guy. So the thing is, act like you've been there before, get up, dust yourself off, and, maybe put what's that they put on, the big hat on the sideline.
Something like that, yeah. Hey, and the other thing, too, that sort of goes back to the game part of it, the turnovers that Prairie View had on offense led directly to points for Northwestern. So when you see something like that as a defensive coach, you have to get your guys to like, hey, man, that means we got to step up. We have to get a score back that we wasn't planning on giving up. And I've seen things like that tear a team up where just say a coach may say something like, well, we scored X amount of points. That should have been enough to win. But they didn't count the fact that defense may have scored a touchdown. Special teams gave you the ball on the 10-yard line twice. Yeah. So, all that, it's independence, but it works together. So those, you say if you take those points off the board, the Panther fans can breathe a lot easier. They drink tastes a little bit better. They don't need the high blood pressure medication or the Black and Miles while they watching the game and stuff.
And let's talk about just a couple of those independent parts. First, I know we kind of was talking about the defense. One thing that does pop off, right, and that you got to be super excited about is the young guys on the defense that have been able to step into major roles are amazing, right? Javen Jackson led the team this past game, 7 tackles. You had Aiden Jones, right, which is a legacy guy. Kendon Jones, his brother, just graduated last year playing linebacker. Now he's here playing linebacker coming from Northern Illinois. You know what I'm saying? 5 tackles, right, and that interception in the 4th quarter. You also got Robert Edmondson, right, another young guy, right, playing big major minutes. And also, listen, Eric Zachary, who probably so far in the first 2 games has been the best cornerback as a true freshman, right? you know what I'm saying,
Yes.
for this team, you know, and the guy who's been a sure tackler so far in these first 2 games, right? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, what do you guys think so far about the young guys who've been able to step into major roles, right, in positions where obviously Schenkel, for example, went down, and now you got to have these young guys step in. You know, you got Zachary coming in and stepping in a role as a corner on the opposite side, right, of some seniors there. So what do you guys just got to say about these young guys first and foremost before we, you know, get into some other stuff on the defense?
Hey, one of the things I think about, you know, Panther fans better find a way to keep them boys out of the transfer portal.
Yes.
And put a little money in their pocket to keep them there, because people, and I tell people this, like, I have buddies that coach at Power 5 schools that have people on their staff that all they do is watch SWAC football games, Southland Conference football games, to see who can we poach that meets our standards if the size is right, and then we got film on them. Let's get those guys to come play with us. And I've seen it happen in Prairie View a couple of times where guys have good years and then end up leaving it. So, but the fact that those young guys are stepping in and playing and making plays, not just being out there, but actually making plays, that bodes well, especially when they play well early during the season and they're not just making mental mistakes. If you can have a young guy that just do your role early in the season, that's going to help them when they get down the line to some conference play and some way more hostile environments than Northwestern State.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me that the younger guys seemed more disciplined.
Yes.
And that was the thing. Maybe they need to be. And we left one off. Can't forget Traylon James.
Man.
Well, his brother. I'm so glad his brother brought him to the team.
Madison Prep, you know what I'm saying? I can't forget my guy Traylon James with the big hit as well. Yeah, playing some big minutes at safety. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
And I was actually with his high school coach, went to high school with me, and we were actually talking about some of the Madison Prep guys that were playing at different schools. And he brought, like, man, I got a couple guys at Prairie View that are playing. So, you know, like I say, a good program, won a state championship a couple years ago. And them kids over there tough. If you go to their practice field, you'll see why them jokers tough like they are.
Yeah, that's big. And, you know, that's why, you know, getting guys from certain programs is important, right? And having those pipelines, you know what I'm saying? And so, you know, it's good to keep your hands in those positions. I was his another legacy, right? And that's why I keep saying, right, this is something that I feel like Grambling Southern has been able to take advantage of, that now you're starting to be able to see PV be able to do some things like that too, where you have a Troy James who also is on the staff as well, right? As I think a defense analyst now, who played big minutes, right, on the line, right, for a few years. Now his brother Traylon James is here at PV, right? Same thing with Aiden Jones, Kendon Jones. Like, so you're seeing a lot of these guys, even with the Shadow Creek, for example, pipeline, right? You know, a lot of those linebackers, we talking about young guys. Hey, you got Schenkel, who was able to bring in, you know what I'm saying, a Jeremiah Harris from Kansas State. And also now you got the young gunner, right, who was a linebacker over there. You know, so it's like you see these connections, different pipelines, different schools, right? Also families. You know, this is where you want to be as a program, right? You know what I'm saying? Where guys feel, man, I want to play in this program where my brother played or my dad played, man. And so it's gonna really be big for us, man. And I'm loving the young guys. Now, I'm not as happy with on this last drive. I got to talk about this last drive, and then we're gonna get to the offense, right? One thing that and this is another question I really want to ask too, is like on that first play from the 1 yard line, it really looked like the safeties was like they were 15 yards off, but they never backed off. They never backed up, right? And so it's almost like you got one-on-one on the outside. And really, if Bird doesn't get that pass interference, and he was gone, the game's over, right? Well, the game's not over, right? Because you still got a little time. But my point is, like, Northwestern State's now up, right, in this game. And so I didn't understand even kind of what the thought processes was there. You know what I mean? Because in the day, man, they got no timeouts. Just get the guys in bounds, tackle them jokers. They haven't even showed that they can even do anything through the air against us all game. Like, why are we even giving them? Why even give them an opportunity to make one big play to change the game? You know what I'm saying? Like, I really didn't understand that just from watching the game online.
I think part of it was, and to me, it looked like they may have been playing some type of 2-man, and probably should have been forcing the guy back inside, and the kid ended up getting an outside release. And then now your cornerback is in chase mode instead of being what we call being on top or being in phase. Even with the wide receiver, even past him. But and like I said, I don't know what the safeties were looking at, but at the same time, it goes back to cornerback technique as well. So glad he took the pass interference, but you'd hate to see him put himself in that position.
Right.
I'm not sure the kid's classification, but it may have been a young guy thing. Then I looked at 2 plays. It was a senior that got.
That was a senior. That was a senior on both of those plays. Yeah.
So that's the thing. As a coach, you're like, man, come on, guy. But did he overestimate his ability? You know where he's lined up, what type of routes you're gonna see, knowing the situation. Like, I'm not gonna get beat deep late in the ball game. Like, let him take that 15-yard comeback, but I'm not gonna give up a 9 route. So, like I say, that's where situational football comes in. And like I say, coaches talked about it, but you out there on the field, like I say, the man in the arena is the one that have to stop that.
Exactly. And that's why I keep saying it's like, to me, I'm like, you gotta, because at the end of the day, right? You got guys who play. I played basketball coming up, right? And those guys who could play, but you could, they didn't understand the game, right? You know what I'm saying? They didn't have an IQ. So yeah, they had a little skill, but they just didn't understand how the game. It's like, bro, why at this time would you make this decision? It's kind of like, are you not understanding where we are, what's going on, right? So that to me, how I felt this game. In different moments and times, like guys became selfish, only thinking of me right now, not thinking of the team, not thinking of the game, and also just like not understanding where you are in the game, to make the decisions you're making. But Mr. Kerry, let's go over to the offensive side, man. Obviously, I know Said put it in the comments a little bit earlier. We had the 2 pick sixes that Cam Peters threw. Obviously, both returned for a touchdown. The only thing that I could think of was like, hey, listen, hey, let's get all the penalties out. Let's get all the pick sixes out, because I can't imagine that we just have this many penalties throughout the year and these many pick sixes throughout the year. So, like, listen, let's get it all out right now. You got this game, you got Michigan State. Listen, get it all out your system, okay? Get it all out your system, because after that, we need to be on point. But overall, including the pick sixes, how did you think about Cam Peters and his play, from this past game? Kerry.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. I thought he was composed in the pocket. One of those pick sixes, not really blaming the receiver, but the cornerback jumped that one, and it kind of reminded me of what I used to tell my son in basketball: you can't wait for the pass. And I think the receiver should have broke on the pass, to come back to it, because he was kind of waiting. And even if it would have been incomplete, the D-back wouldn't have got it. It was just because he kind of ran through. He didn't hit him, but he ran through his hands and got the pick. So that was one that I don't know if that was on Peters, but I did like how he had some nice touch on the ball. Shoot, I wanted to suit up and play quarterback with Savage out there. But Peters had some good looks. I would have liked to have seen us. I'm curious to see how it's going to look when he gets some passes to the tight end, because I think, we have some pretty big guys out there at tight end, and I'd like to see how they will perform with some touch passes that are up here instead of some of the passes they got in the past that were at their belt buckle. Because like I had told you privately, a tight end, if he's 6'7", he probably grew up playing basketball and football. So he's used to a pass up here. And you want to get that too, especially if nobody's really on him, which in the SWAC, the tight ends are always open. Southern used to kill people with that. So I'd like to see us, and Whedon's offense, they're running free. So I'd like to see them get a few looks. And I know we're supposed to be talking about Peters, but I was excited because I don't know if it was circumstantial or if Whedon watched your show, but somebody listened to me when I said put Heron in the Wildcat a couple times. And he got a couple good runs. So, I was excited about that because he's the most athletic on the field. I'd be surprised if he can't play both ways because that guy is really athletic and his attitude toward the game is just like, I don't care. I'm going to fight to the end. But, yeah Peters was good. I thought he was really nice out there. He's a good compliment to, and he threw 100 more yards than the quarterback he was competing against. So that lets you know right there he had a pretty good game. But it doesn't hurt to have somebody like Savage with that ESPN top 10 catch on the side.
For sure. Coach, what's your thoughts, man? Because the one thing I would say is I'm happy that he didn't let the pick sixes in the game for him. You know what I mean? Because, you can have guys who turn the ball over big like that, especially that 30, we was up 30-21. That one, was one that's like, man, you can kind of let that one get to you. And now the game has completely got away. But for him to come back, stay composed, lead us down, go ahead and get up again by 9 points, right? So I was happy to see that because I think, in listening to Coach Whedon when he's talking about him in the spring, he wanted to see him be composed like that, right? You know what I'm saying? To not let a play get him so down that you lose the whole quarter. You know what I mean? And so that's what I was really happy to see. Coach, man, what did you think about Cam, but also just the offense as a whole?
If you just look at the offensive numbers in terms of the total yards, the third down, 50% on third down, this game shouldn't have even been close. Almost 200 yards rushing. Yeah. So everything, like I say, I have a degree in math education, so all the numbers say one thing, but I went to a seminar, they say how to make numbers lie, and you can get different results with the same problem and estimations, but it's nothing that says this should have been a close game. No. With 468 yards, the third down percentage, all that type of stuff say big win by the Panthers, but that's football when you get the turnover game going and all that kind of stuff like that. So the numbers show good minus the pick sixes. If you take the pick sixes out of the game, everybody feels totally different. Yep. But at the same time, guys gonna say you don't let pass in victory what you wouldn't let pass in a loss. So they gonna correct those mistakes, find out was it a bad read. Sometimes this is the thing that people don't realize too. Sometimes interceptions are actually the wide receiver's fault. Did he run too deep? Did he not cut at a sharp enough angle? Was it a tip pass? All those things that people don't think about. They just look at, the quarterback threw 2 pick sixes, So, and like I say, I didn't see that part of the game because I literally watched pretty much the last 4 to 5 minutes of the game. That's all I wanted to see. And it took an hour to do that. So the numbers say Prairie View should have won by a lot. And they'll take a 1-point win if it's one.
Listen, we'll still take the win. And I think at the end of the day, man, when people talk about the big jump from game 1 to game 2, at the end of the day, I think you saw that though, right? You know what I'm saying? Even with the things that need to be cleaned up, right? You know what I'm saying? Turnover wise, you talk about, the penalties. But when you look at the jump that was made, and I think this is what people were excited about and what people was expecting the TSU game, that, hey, this is a team that can score the ball. Whedon puts people in a position where you got to make a lot of decisions as a DC, right? And as, like you say, the guys that's actually in the arena, you know what I'm saying? You make these guys have to make a lot of decisions. And so, we should be able to score the ball, right? And again, even though the ending score doesn't look like it, because I know a lot of people look at the ending score, first game, second game, even with, again, right, I still feel there's still some components of the secondary that we still got to tweak and fix. But overall, like I say, the defense has played extremely well, right? You know what I'm saying? Right. And I think they play well enough that you say, okay, with an offense that can put the ball in the end zone and a defense that can play lights out in moments in time, right? Especially, right, throughout, 3-4 drives in the second or third quarter to give our offense a chance to bump leads up, really take control of games. we showed the inner workings of a team that really has a shot this year to do something special. And I think that's what we all saw, and what we all believe. So, but yeah, man.
Yes.
Any last thoughts, man? Before we close out, and we appreciate everybody for jumping on, man. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and like the stream, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you for jumping on and showing some love to Coach Heist Northern, as he's going to be joining us, right? You know what I'm saying, throughout the rest of the year, man, and giving his expertise. So please show him some love in the chat as well, for giving up his time as well to just talk about HBCU football. But any last words, man, before we go?
Now, I'm looking forward to, sort of the future of where this is going to take us or me. Like I said, I want to get into the administrative side of sports, or the TV side as an analyst. I looked down there and I saw a Chris Ford in the comments. I'm not sure if that's Chris Ford that played linebacker for
Yes,
me.
sir.
Yeah.
For me. Hey, and it might not seem like a lot to the average person. We were at practice one day, and Chris made a check. And normally you're Omaha that Chris says something like, "Hey man, disregard that call." So to me, like, that's like the funniest thing ever in terms of football. But like I say, man, I love them guys, man. I love seeing those guys that played for me. I love seeing them with their wife and kids,
Yes.
all that type of stuff. So, like I say, I appreciate those guys. I saw something that said, "Why the DBs pressing so late?" So usually the coach may give a guy a call, but he has a toolbox of how you're going to play this. It might be man-to-man or two-man, but just because he calls two-man, it don't mean you have to press. You could play off-man, you could play press-man, you could play quarters-man, read, it's a lot of different things. So when you're on the field, you have to make that decision. The coach is not going to always tell a kid to press or not, but like I say, man, I'm looking forward to it. I love talking about football, and like I say, I really am looking forward to it as much as I'm looking forward to watching my own son play.
That's awesome, man. Mr. Carey, any last words you got this evening?
Last words. I know Texas Southern's glad they didn't see this team last week. Even the commentators commented that we were probably about 30, 40 pounds bigger than their line, the offensive line. And I think running the ball really caused some attrition at the end of the game.
Definitely.
And that was really, I've heard some comments of people say, "Oh, you beat the worst team in the country." I could pick a lot of SWAC teams that would not have won that game that night. This was their first home game. They were excited to be back because they had to end early last year. He went and he didn't go and get guys worse than the guys they had. And they'll see as they go down the line, that quarterback they had was not a bad quarterback. Our defense just cranked it up. I mean, this guy's 6'5", 220 or so. And, he was a load. He could see over everybody. He made good reads, but our defense was just smothering. And they'll find out down the road that, they're going to win some games. So people that say that, because they do all that, saying all that, but the SWAC went, 1-4 this weekend versus FCS opponents. So Prairie View must have did something right, but they just don't want to give us the credit because, other fan bases and schools, they're scared of what'll happen if people start looking up to wanting to be at PV, see our facilities more on TV. PV gets more exposure. It's a lot of people had no clue that we're not even in Blackshear anymore.
Right.
Some people, an 80 team, they had no clue that we went to the championship 2 out of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And, they think if we start winning, the word to get out, and that's not what they really want. Because I'm telling you, if PV grabs the ring and gets out front, starts getting more national exposure, the recruits that are going to come there, they're already a problem. They're going to be a bigger problem in the SWAC and beyond.
Can I add something? I know we're getting close to the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
In my opinion, as from a coaching standpoint, a father of an athlete, it's not even about national exposure. It's about sometimes getting people that's close by to realize, number one, exactly where Prairie View is, because it's people that look like me that think Prairie View is in Dallas, Texas, because that's where they play Grambling. So it's things like that and the high school coaches in the area that won't set foot on campus no matter how many times you invite them to a game, but they'll send the kid to Stephen F., Lamar, Houston Christian. So it's a lot that we have to pull. And then you think about the alums that have kids that they didn't have the greatest experience at Prairie View, that they don't want to go to school there. So, you know, it's just different things like that. And I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I think we as an institution, I still say we, because Prairie View is on my son's list of schools to attend college. So it's we have to do a better job as alums, local people, even the students of representing Prairie View A&M University and making people know exactly what we have to offer. And some people, they going to take it, and other people, they not going to take it no matter what you say.
Nah, that's good. Nah, and I think that's spot on, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's thinking from the administrative hat side of things, right? You know what I mean? Like Coach has been talking about early in the show. So, you know, once these guys know that we're here, that we're even a D1 program, right? You know what I'm saying? At Texas Southern and Prairie View are D1 programs, right? You know, in the state of Texas, and the location, because I keep telling people, Prairie View, listen, everything in Houston is 4 or 5 minutes away anyway. So you talking about 45 minutes from Prairie View is Cypress and Katy and Hockley, and it's a lot of places, right? You know what I'm saying? So you in the city, okay? So even the thought process that is so far away from everything in Houston, okay? Let's just understand that, all right? So it just change the narrative and thought process, right? And it starts to build that brand as you want it to. But I do agree, Kerry, that you know, if we can get rolling and get one, if we can get one in hand, a SWAC championship, Celebration Bowl, right? You know, that can really start to change the narrative, you know what I mean, in a lot of people's minds too, man. And so I'm super excited, man, for what this show is going to be. Hey, listen, next week, man, Southern and Jackson, obviously that's always a big one. Now, it doesn't make sense ever that it's not a SWAC game, but, you know, that's a whole different conversation for another time. And then
we need to go on that one.
Grambling, Texas A&M Commerce got a little bit more exciting for me after seeing Commerce against UC Davis. I actually watched some of that game, you know what I'm saying, that comeback they had. Also, they played pretty well against San Diego State. That's a really interesting game next week that Grambling's going to have. And so I'm definitely going to be paying attention to that one because we got Graham in, 3 weeks? You know what I'm saying? So really see how they – and we also play Commerce this year, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be a really interesting game to watch. And we're going to talk about it next week on the recap, man. So, again, appreciate all y'all for coming and jumping on. Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Coach, for joining us, man, on the recap with Coach Heisch Northern. Until next time, man, we'll see y'all next week.